Harley. You get right to the center of the matter, don't you? It says at the top of the article, forget Greta Lundgren, a little Asperger lady with the squinty eyes and yelling at adults that are killing the planet at the United Nations. Think of the central bankers are the real eco-fascists. Please break this down for people.
Well, what I concentrated on was the speech delivered shortly after Greta's rant by Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England. Now, most of the media attention was focused on Greta, who, here's a completely unexceptional 16-year-old girl who was conducting sit-in outside the Swedish Parliament every Friday.
Right.
And this became turned by the media into a Friday for Future movement, which was encouraging young people to skip school on Friday and to go out and insist that a decarbonization program be implemented to save the planet. And Greta's line is that we have less than 12 years before the planet becomes uninhabitable.
Right.
Now, none of this is scientifically accurate. None of it is backed by real science. In fact, I mentioned later in the article that a group of 500 extremely prominent scientists from all over Western Europe, the United States, Australia, and New Zealand just sent a letter to the UN Secretary General saying there is no global warming, there is no climate emergency, and demanding there be a debate before measures are taken which are irreversible. But meanwhile, you have the 16...
Which will, by the way, cause an extinction level event. I mean, whatever they're planning, I met with Dr. Isley, physicist of the Vitamin College in March of 1997, and these morons want to do carbon capture and change the albedo Earth with nanoparticle thorium, calcium carbonate that's laced with lead into the upper atmosphere to change the albedo reflectivity of the Earth. These people are eco-morons, and they're dangerous, and we don't let them near any levers of power.
Let me go through.
Please continue.
Let me go through what they're planning on doing, because this is they may be lunatics, but they're very serious.
Oh, sure they are. That's why Project Scopex, pushed by Bill Gates and billions of dollars, as well as other morons at the United Nations. Go ahead.
This young woman, Greta, all of a sudden is headlining at Davos, has a meeting with the Pope, a meeting with the European Union Council, with Macron, with top people in Britain and Germany, with Merkel. And then she comes to the United States on a solar-powered yacht so that she's not making a carbon footprint. Meanwhile, her staff is hovering over her in helicopters. But why did
and flying back and forth in regular airplanes, right?
Yeah.
It's all eco-foolishness. It's ridiculous. And she's a functionally, marginally intelligent Asperger child with a frontal lobe activity to have an executive function to stop being manipulated and used as a minion of the global eco-fascists, right? Please continue.
Well, her parents are manipulative parents who are sensing an opportunity to further their own goals, which is the destruction of industry in the world. So anyway, the first question to ask is, how did she get so much publicity and get turned into this superstar? And you see the usefulness she serves when she goes before the United Nations and says, shame on you, you're destroying my life and dreams. We're watching you. That she says
it's disgusting.
You're going to end up killing off.
She's verbally bitch-slapping the world with no brains at all. She's brainless mouthpiece for the eco-fascists.
Well, that's the point. The point that I make in the article is that shortly after her speech, the real agenda was presented by Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England. And I point out that Carney was the one who 3.5 weeks ago gave a speech at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where he spoke about dumping the dollar, going to a global virtual currency controlled by the central banks that would have the right to use it to generate helicopter money, that is unlimited amounts of credit, supposedly to stimulate the economy, but basically
in other words, magic money tree all over again, like brainless one, AOC, the one with absent a cortex, that believes in the magic money tree, right?
The proposal of Carney would provide flows of cash to the speculators to sustain the bubble.
Right. With the bubble, by the way, is going to blow up, and these bubble maniacs, what we really need to do is do what the Chinese have talked about, which is put up Glass-Steagall like you've talked about for years, and get over the bubble economy, which is going to pop and cause a lot of death and destruction. I mean, they quote in the Big Short is that this thing caused a lot of death and destruction, not just to people's finances, but killed people. Please continue.
Well, the point is that what Carney proposed at Jackson Hole was that the money would go into a green financial initiative. Now, he came to the United Nations and he said, we have a compact signed by 130 banks and financial institutions, including some of the largest banks in the world. And he said that they represent $47 trillion in assets and manage $120 trillion. He said that we have in this compact that we will be monitoring where the loans go in the future. And in his talk, he said that if the banks loan money that goes to green projects, they will be handsomely rewarded. But if they continue to play the old game, they will be brought down. And essentially what he threatened is that if you don't go along with the green financial initiative, you'll be cut off from credit.
Right. So in other words, he wants to destroy the oil and gas industry and move us back to the pre-industrial age with unreliable power source.
Well, it's not only oil and gas. It's machine tool production. Any industry that requires a certain level of energy density in its production process, including mechanized agriculture. And so
that's ridiculous. So everybody was starved to death because you can't even get the food.
Well, and not only will you not produce it, but then you'll have no way to transport what little food is produced.
I think this is a massive genocide is what it is.
Yeah, what Carney presented was then backed up by Michael Bloomberg, one of the billionaires who's funding the Green Initiative. This is what Tom Steyer is supporting. This is what George Soros is supporting. And that's why Greta is getting media coverage, because she's the spokesperson for these genocidalist billionaires who, if they just come out on their own and say, we're just going to lend money to the bubble and starve everything else, no one would, I mean, they might face pitchforks. So what do? They this poor little waif-looking girl up in front of the audience to denounce them for killing the future for children. And they're building a support level among young people who are being terrorized to think that their parents driving a car might deprive them of a future. So this
pretty obscene, isn't it?
Well, let me just tell you what happened, which is interesting. We confronted Carney. One of my associates, Daniel Burke, who, by the way, I'd like to get on your program sometime. He's
right. Bring him whenever you want to. Just bring him on. Or we can also do some video podcasts after the show or on a weekend, like a Saturday or Sunday. Well,
Daniel Burke is running against Cory Booker for Senate in New Jersey.
Good.
And what Daniel did was he was out there with a sign that said, Mark Carney is a genocidalist worse than Hitler. And he ran into Carney when Carney came out from one of these events. And he went up to Carney and he said, how do you answer this sign? You're proposing policies that will kill millions of people. And Carney said, you're mistaken about that, and ran across the street and, of course, jumped into a very large limousine, which all of these hypocrites who talk about carbon footprints, they travel in private planes, limousines, and so on. Now, the important thing is that here you had this global climate conference, and Carney laid out the financial side of it, and then John Kerry presented the other side, which is that there will be a coalition of the willing, those nations who are willing to commit themselves to a more rapid decarbonization, and they will carry out isolation. He even threatened sanctions against what he called the axis of climate deniers. And who are the most important climate deniers he mentioned? Russia, China, India, Japan, and the United States.
And by the way, China's right up there, too. I mean, without the high energy that they're getting from whatever sources, they would have no economy. It would disappear.
Well, and here's the point. What he identified are the most productive economies in the world.
Right.
So if you put sanctions or credit freezes on those countries, then you're going to threaten an extinction level event. Now, there's one.
Well, that's what they want, though. I mean, let's face it. When you're sticking a blade between somebody's ribs and you're turning it so it'll go between the ribs and won't get stopped, it's because you're trying to stab somebody to death. Okay, they're trying to kill us. Let's just face the music.
We just put out a new pamphlet called "Carbon or CO2 Reduction is a Mass Genocide Policy Designed by the City of London and Wall Street," and we go through the whole history of eugenics in the so-called environmentalist movement. But let me make this one final point before we have more discussion on this. What they're proposing, what the Kerry proposal represents, what was presented by Carney and others, is not occurring in a vacuum. It's occurring at a moment where the financial system is staggering. The repo process, that is the overnight loans that are needed by corporations to balance their books overnight, all of a sudden the Fed is pumping in $50 to $75 billion a day into these. $500 billion in the last 10 days. Now,
yeah, well, the repo thing's ready to pop. I mean, we talked about this over several years, and you gave them warning that this is going to happen. I mean, I'm sure LaRouche has mentioned for decades that's why they put poor LaRouche into prison, because he told the truth and had an analysis of really what makes an economy work. And these people are working against logic and decency, and they are genocidal. I mean, what they want to do is genocidal. It's a genocidal economic policy.
Well, that's why we call them eco-fascists, ecological fascists. But here's the point. The fact is that while Mark Carney is talking about a sustainable new financial system, a regime change in finance to ensure the future, the banks that signed this compact, which include the bankrupt Citibank, the Deutsche Bank, which just, by the way, the offices of Deutsche Bank were raided again 2 days ago by German Federal Financial Police, the Hongshang Bank, another bank that is a serial money launderer. These are the banks that signed this compact that he said are going to make sure we have a sustainable financial future. These are the criminal banks that crashed the economy in 2008 and have continued to build up unsustainable debt by pouring funds into the most risky speculation with the expectation that they'll be bailed out if they have another blowout. So I find it doubly ironic that, number one, their policies of decarbonization, if implemented, will kill many, many more people than the so-called rising oceans. And number two, they're talking about stabilizing a financial system which is completely out of control and heading toward a major catastrophe. So that's what's in my article, and I would urge people to look at it on your site or to send me an email at harleysch@gmail.com, and I'll give you a link to my blog page. So it's harleysch, that's HARLEYSCH @gmail.com, and you can get the link to my blog page.
Yeah,
so
I'll post up your email too so people can email you directly. Where do you think this is going? Because what I see happening in the latest, and it's such a circus with Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats and Nadler and Adam Schiff. By the way, I've changed the last two letters of his name from FF to TT. This man is obscene. The fact that he's in any position of power, including the chairman of this Intel committee, is disgusting. It's embarrassing that this man is anywhere in politics, and he tried to push the Department of National Intelligence, DNI guy, over and over and over again to try to get him to admit that, hey, this is terrible, what happened? And there's nothing there. I mean, you read the actual dossier document, the actual phone conversation, and even the new leader elected of Ukraine said there's nothing there. These people and the Democrats are committing suicide. They'll knock off Biden, and most rational people will not support tax maniacs, Warren and Bernie Sanders Claus. Well, I'll tell you, they've just brought out the Titanic and they're heading directly for a giant iceberg, the Democrats. They want to die. They want to kill themselves geopolitically.
Do you have Have difficulty taking supplements? Are you searching for a high-quality, complete nutritional drink that your whole family will love? NutriMedical's Life Support has arrived. All of your daily nutritional requirements in one quick, delicious drink. Dr. Bill Deagle's Life Support is a proprietary blend of vegan protein, activated vitamins, essential minerals, amino acids, probiotics, green tea, digestive enzymes, anti-inflammatories, cancer prevention, detoxification, and much more. Your body will high-five you for this one. Life Support is the best complete nutritious meal replacement on the market. Whether you are an elite athlete, have post-operative challenges, chronic illness, elderly, or a family that just wants a quick, delicious drink, try Dr. Bill Deagle's Life Support for optimized nutrition in one great tasting smoothie. Just add cold water, almond milk, fruit, or anything else you like. NutriMedical's Life Support. Try our great tasting chocolate or vanilla today. Call 888-212-8871 or visit us online at NutriMedical.com. NutriMedical.com for the whole family.
Red Deer Velvet DR is an amazing new product with a patent to preserve 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones, same as fetal life, where you don't age at all. The state of fetal life allows the 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones produced by the placenta to be supportive of the regeneration of tissues and organs, with maximum apoptosis, changing the tissue and organ structure of a fetus. That's why if fetal surgery is performed, there is no scar. Taking 2 to 3 capsules twice a day with oncomycin, myco-D2, provides an amazing support for regeneration of any tissue and organ in the body, and even advanced stem cell therapy support treatment. Do get NutriMedical's Red Deer Velvet DR from Dr. Bill Deagle at NutriMedical.com, NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871. Stay well and stay young with NutriMedical. Lumen photon therapy, infrared light, far and near infrared, is extremely important for pain control, stimulation of nitric oxide, improved perfusion, and stem cell activation and reduction of cytokines. Dr. Bill uses it for pain control, for regeneration techniques, for organ regeneration, and for stimulation of your stem cell activity. This amazing lumen photon therapy this year will probably have an additional device with frequency therapy during the on phase of the lights. To obtain a lumen photon machine, contact Dr. Bill at NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871. He'll prescribe it with the provided nutraceuticals to help with your regeneration, healing, and pain control. Nothing like the lumen photon therapy for easy therapy for your eyes, your pain, your joints, regeneration of organs, detoxification of the body. Get a lumen photon machine from Dr. Bill Deagle, NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871. Stay well with NutriMedical. The Sonic Life Machine is one of the most amazing therapies that Dr. Bill provides. It is the best sine wave exercise machine on the planet, doing whole body vibration, opening up the muscle to reduce insulin resistance, improve perfusion, release stem cell therapies throughout the body, and epigenetically stimulate the body to release DNA activated. The epigenetic therapy with the sine wave curve of frequencies given for atomic resonance, but Linus Pauling for minerals and amino acids, stimulates the production of messenger RNA to correct structural protein enzyme deficiency for almost every illness. There's nothing like the sine wave therapy for improving body healing for exercise, but also the epigenetic treatments Dr. Bill can provide can help neutralize frequencies for disease states and illness. Get a Sonic Life machine through Dr. Bill Deagle at NutriMedical.com. Contact us at NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871, or go to the website NutriMedical and give us a contact. Dr. Bill is available to help you get well with NutriMedical.
Need a powerful ally to fight daily bugs and serious pathogens? Allicin Med is the powerful universal pathogen killer's latest advance of German-sourced allicin, enzymatically stabilized to clear the body of bacteria, fungi, mycobacteria, and parasites. It penetrates body biofilms and is non-toxic to tissues. Pathogen resistance cannot develop for long-term body-optimized wellness. Clear stealth pathogens that promote autoimmune disease, cancer and vascular inflammation and plaque, and promote healing of tissues. Now pathogen-free. With 200 milligrams more power than prior Alamed, you can't get a more powerful ally to fight daily bugs and serious pathogens. Give your body what it needs. Allicin Med. Order Dr. Bill Deagle's Nutridyne at 888-212-8871 or NutriMedical.com. That's 1-888-212-8871 or NutriMedical.com. And listen to the NutriMedical Report on the Genesis Radio Network with open lines every weekday. NutriMedical.com, bringing nutrition and medicine together.
mean, this is crazy stuff. And welcome back. What the demon rats are doing is so destructive, it could actually cause a physical war with Russia and Iran. It could actually cause a meltdown in trade talks with China and Russia, would be good in the long run. It could literally precipitate a thermonuclear war and biological chemical war. I mean, this is incredibly stupid, but they are so greedy for power, they'll do anything even if it destroys America. Please tell us more.
Well, before I get to the Ukraine situation, which I do want to discuss because this is something that we've been writing about almost exclusively since the whole Russiagate started, let me just go back to what's happening on Wall Street for a moment. The repo markets, that's the overnight lending when banks have a liquidity shortage and need to get a certain amount of money just to cover some debts so they can go keep business going the next day. Usually this is a fairly small thing and it's an overnight deal. Well, on Tuesday, they needed $142 billion. $142 billion. Now, I told you before the break that they've been doing something like $50 billion a day, and that's not enough because the overnight lending rate keeps going up because corporations are desperate. Right. Banks are desperate. So
I think they're paying now up to 10.5% or so, right?
So the Fed is trying to keep the rate down by putting this overnight rate, but it's no longer overnight rate. Yesterday, for the first time, it's now a 2-week repo. So they give them 2 weeks to pay it back. So this is quantitative easing on steroids. And yesterday, they needed 2 days ago when they needed 142 billion, the New York Fed only had 105 billion. So this is getting out of control of the Federal Reserve. This is exactly the process, not the same kind of financial instruments, but the process that led to the collapse of Bear Stearns in 2007 and then Lehman Brothers in 2008.
Right.
Now, they're going to continue to have daily repos until October 10th. Now, the question is, which are the banks that need all this liquidity? And are they on a watch list? Now, in doing this, what the Fed is saying is, oh, don't worry, this is just a normal sequence. It's not a normal sequence. The last time this happened was 2007, 2008. So when we ask the question of why is it that the Democrats are going so crazy for impeachment, it's not just about them being greedy for power. It's that they fear that under these circumstances of an unleashed global warming, lunatic carbon program, combined with a financial collapse, that Trump is going to feel bolder than ever and will be more aggressive in pursuing relations with Russia and China, breaking the power of Wall Street and the City of London. And so they're going after him with a new determination. And,
of course, if banks have their own plan for a world global currency, what Trump has is he's going to actually, if he's smart, he'll just do a bilateral currency lock-in exchange with China and back the dollar with gold. And that's the end of their game, isn't it? And then you get put in Glass-Steagall, like you guys have talked about for years. So the bubble economy goes bye-bye, doesn't it?
That's the whole point, that Trump has to get smart. He's fighting a life and death battle right now.
Right.
The Democrats are totally, and it's not the Democrats. You know, Adam Schiff is nothing. It's the billionaires and the bankers who have been running this coup at the beginning.
Right.
And using the intelligence community of not just the United States, but the United Kingdom and Ukraine as part of their weapon. Now, why is this Ukraine thing so important? It's not just the corruption of the Bidens. You know, people get so bent out of shape and trying to discredit Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. That's a minor point. What's the bigger point? It's not Joe Biden's son's coke habit and his corruption. It's that Biden was the point man for Ukraine of the Obama administration, which carried out a coup against an elected government in Ukraine, working with Nazis in Ukraine, working with neoconservative networks in the State Department around Victoria Nuland and George Soros, working as well with the CIA, They carried out a coup, and what was the point of the coup? It was to turn the United States and Russia against each other.
Right.
So this is what Joe Biden did. This is what should be investigated, because Joe Biden was working with this operation called CrowdStrike, which is the one that did the phony so-called forensic test, which claimed that it was the Russians that hacked the DNC. Where does CrowdStrike operate from? It's got hackers in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian intelligence community.
Even though it's been proven it couldn't be a hack, it had to be an actual, basically direct flash drive transfer of that data, which is proven, right?
That's what happened with the DNC data. But the actual so-called evidence against Paul Manafort, the evidence against Trump and so on, was being cooked up in Ukrainian hack shops that were working directly with John Brennan and with the British, with the GCHQ in Britain. So if Trump is smart, he says, okay, let's take a step back here. I don't really give a damn about Hunter Biden. I'm interested in why Joe Biden went to Kiev 10 times in the period before and after the coup. What was Joe Biden doing then? Biden was manufacturing the evidence that was going to be used in Russiagate if Trump got elected. Now, not Biden personally. Biden was, as I say, the point man for the administration. He probably couldn't remember these things. But Biden was working with the John Brennan networks and with the Christopher Steele networks. Don't forget, I'm reminding your listeners, some of your listeners know these things, but some of them don't or they forget them. Who was in Ukraine through the period leading up to and after the 2014 coup? It was Christopher Steele, the former MI6 operative, who was sending out daily memos almost on what was happening in Ukraine. And who did he send them to? He sent them to a man named Jonathan Weiner, who was the aide to John Kerry, who was the Secretary of State. But Weiner delivered them to Victoria Nuland, who was the point person in the State Department for the Ukraine coup.
Right.
Now, that means...
She actually boasted over the fact that she was involved with that coup, didn't she?
Well, she claimed, look, we spent $5 billion to get this coup.
Yeah.
Now, here's the important point. What Nuland was involved in was organizing the coup through these networks, including Christopher Steele, manufacturing the arguments for the regime change. They took the fact that there was legitimate anger in Ukraine. I mean, in almost any country right now, you have people who are legitimately angry. The question is there money to turn that into a movement? And in the case of Ukraine, it came from the U.S. government, the National Endowment for Democracy. It came from private networks like George Soros, and it came from the State Department. They produced an operation that overthrew an elected government.
Wow.
Now, that's what Trump has to bring out. And he could do that with Zelensky, the new president, because the new president was not part of that. But he's in a fight right now with the holdovers from the old president, Poroshenko. And those old networks include the Nazi security operation that was the one that did the shooting at Maidan. It was not the Ukrainian secret police, but it was the Nazi militia who were working together with the Obama administration to pull off the coup.
Right.
So if Trump wants to resolve the problems we have with Europe, if he made this public, what would Merkel do? Merkel would have to stop the anti-Russian policy of Germany. Macron is smart enough, the people who run Macron are smart enough to back away from that, and they're now doing everything they can to work with Trump and Zelensky to get some kind of an agreement with Putin to cool things out in Ukraine. But now, because the Democrats are pulling the string on this whole so-called Trump illegal intervention, what they're doing is opening the door for Trump to just destroy this CIA network. And he's got to do it, because if he doesn't, they will take him down.
Well, the thing is right now, Trump has got all these rabid Democrats. It's blowing up on their face. I think if he gets the name of the individual and starts doing a parallel investigation how this started, because to me it has the smell of a spy. It has the smell of a of an actual physical coup, and the coup plotters need to go to prison. That's what I think.
Well, but Bill, here's the point. We've known this for a long time, and Trump knows it too. The longer he waits on this, and you and I have discussed this before, the idea of waiting for tactical political reasons until 2020 is a mistake, because not only do the Democrats have a unified position right now on this, but they've got the full weight of the media building this up. And the intention is not, how do you impeach someone like Trump? All you have to do is weaken enough of the support for him from moderate Republicans and independents so that you can then go to the Republican senators and say, do you want to go down with Trump? And that's the strategy of the Democratic Party. Now, the other problem Trump has is that if they pull the plug on the economy, that's the other weak flank that he has. So he has, out of necessity, to move on these flanks and go after the Brennan, CIA, Obama networks who are responsible for the Ukraine coup and then responsible for Russiagate.
Right.
So
this is getting pretty intense because you can see how insane they are and how rabid they are of looking at something and turning it completely inside out. For example, if you look at the activity and even the boasts of Biden, he boasted back in January 2018 on camera about actually getting this guy fired. It was researching Hunter Biden and his Burisma company in Ukraine. He got $1.5 billion for doing nothing, and he flew in an Air Force 2 to China. I mean, this is the perfect, if you want to call it par excellence example of corruption. Biden and his son are the perfect example of what a corruption looks like.
But Bill, listen to what I'm saying. If you fight it on that basis, you're going to have one person's corruption versus another person's corruption. You have to fight it on the higher basis.
Yeah, I agree.
They were committed to a policy that could lead to world war with Russia. Why? Because they know that the Western financial system is crashing. And if there's an alternative to that coming from Eurasia, then Europe will eventually move to that, and the Anglo-American bankers will be isolated. So what do? They go for the war strategy. So I think instead of focusing on, people focus on corruption because the average guy thinks these guys get away with all this corruption and they make money and I don't like it. But that's a lower level thinking. If you eliminated that so-called corruption, you still could have World War III. What we've got to do is pull the plank out from under these coup plotters by showing what they're really trying to do. And the president could do it. He could go to the American people with that. I'll write the speech for him. I mean, he could devastating presentation that would have John Brennan digging into a hole somewhere, disappearing. But if he doesn't do it, these guys will continue to eat away at his support. And if they can pull the economy down with them, he's not going to have a chance. And then Republicans, being a bunch of gutless idiots, most of them.
Yeah, aren't they?
They aren't defending. I mean, some of them are defending him well, especially in the House. Nunes is doing a good job, Jim Jordan, some of the others. But in the Senate, they're pretty quiet. And you have Mitt Romney, who's a damn traitor, saying that what Trump did was unacceptable. And then you have William Weld, who's running against Trump in some primaries. Weld said that what Trump did was treason, and the penalty for treason is the death penalty. Now, that's the same Weld who launched the Get LaRouche Task Force in 1985. The same William from the White Weld, Austin.
Yeah, same minion, a different script. How's that?
Well, and it's important to know who Weld is. His family is tied to Credit Suisse through the White Weld Investment Bank in Boston, Massachusetts. They were the ones who were part of the Boston Clipper ships pushing opium in the 19th century.
Amazing stuff. Wow. Back in a couple minutes with more shocking world-level news and analysis with Harley Schlanger. We got to pay attention. Back in a moment.
Are you still looking for that one iodine that you can really trust? A medical doctor-endorsed product that is backed by honest research and true integrative science? Then search no further. Go to NutriMedical.com for Dr. Bill Deagle's Nutriodine, proven time and time again to be the very best iodine available for you. Nutriodine is the only Tesla-activated monatomic plasma iodine in the world. It optimizes mitochondrial function and generation of new mitochondria, from totally neutralizing the venom from a desert recluse spider bite in Southern California to eliminating malaria parasites reported by medical missionaries in Central India. Dr. Bill's Nutriodine is simply the most powerful healing formula there is. Nutriodine clears the body of all known pathogens, restores it to an alkaline state, and even promotes stem cell regeneration. Order Dr. Bill's Nutriodine today at 888-212-8871 or visit us online at NutriMedical.com.
Red Deer Velvet DR is an amazing new product with a patent to preserve 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones, same as fetal life, where you don't age at all. The state of fetal life allows the 300 biomolecules and 6 hormones produced by the placenta to be supportive of the regeneration of tissues and organs, with maximum apoptosis, changing the tissue and organ structure of a fetus. That's why if fetal surgery is performed, there is no scar. Taking 2 to 3 capsules twice a day with oncomycin, myco-D2, provides an amazing support for regeneration of any tissue and organ in the body, and even advanced stem cell therapy support treatment. Do get NutriMedical's Red Deer Velvet DR from Dr. Bill Deagle at NutriMedical.com, NutriMedical.com, 888-212-8871. Stay well and stay young with NutriMedical. Hi, I'm Dr. Bill Deagle, MD, AAEM, ACAM, A4M, of NutriMedical.com, and a consultant providing email advice free on advanced protocols for your optimized wellness and advanced technologies to heal and regenerate you. You can contact us at NutriMedical.com, that's NutriMedical.com, or 888-212-8871. You get free email starter protocols of our top medical-grade nutraceuticals, initial testing, and recommendations for your own primary doctor to do, as well as recommendations to give you an idea of a consultation and a full protocol to try to help you regenerate your tissues, heal naturally without the use of toxic polypharmacy. I can send test kits to you as well anywhere in the world and provide you recommendations for referral of specialty clinics worldwide. So contact me, Dr. Bill Deagle, at NutriMedical.com. That's NutriMedical.com, or 888-212-8871. At NutriMedical.com, we have the most amazing drinks with the best mouthfeel, highest quality bionutrient exposure to your body to heal and regenerate, and the most powerful persistence of nutrients to heal your body dramatically. We have Ageless, which makes you age less, which repairs your DNA, extends your telomeres, etc. We have Life Support that detoxes phase 2 detox pathways, glucuronidation, sulfation, and methylation pathway support. We have Glycemics that blocks the carbohydrate absorption and helps with diabetes or weight loss, and as well helps with people that are trying to build up muscle, using things like our special formulas from Dr. Wolf called Mega Muscles between meals along with Sports Energy Light. We have the amazing NutriComplete, the most complete red and greens drink in the world, with the best mouthfeel and flavor. You can often mix it too with Vitamin Mineral Mix, which is our fruit-flavored mixed power of vitamin minerals. Stay well with NutriMedical every day.
I remember when I lost my...
Good.
Well, Pompeo announced today that the U.S. has concluded that the Assad regime used chlorine as a chemical weapon last May when they were cleaning out Idlib province. And so not will Syria face new sanctions, but also Russia. Now, this is based
This is more of the same crap, isn't it?
It's more of the same, but you have to then realize that when Trump is caught up in a fight like he is right now on this Ukrainian situation, people like Pompeo use a certain amount of freedom to carry out the neocon war games. I mean, I would say to Trump, look, Pompeo may seem loyal to you, but he's going with the Joe Biden-Obama policy toward Russia.
Right.
This is not your policy.
Right.
And this is where President Trump leaves himself wide open for attacks because he doesn't shut down the operations against him. Now, the second thing that came out from congressional hearings today is that what this so-called whistleblower represents is a continuation of leaks coming from key White House institutions, which means in some cases they may be anti-Trump people who are still there, or maybe just people who have been connected to CIA operations and other things. But it undercuts the president's ability to pursue his policies. So, but I want to go back to what we were talking about before the break, which is the importance of fighting these things on the higher level. Because the problem is that there's so much anger out there, legitimate anger, as people are seeing their nest eggs disappear, their home prices collapse, or home values collapse, jobs lost, job security gone, their kids have no jobs that can pay off their student debt, and so on. There's a lot of anger, and it's easy to whip certain people, so-called conservatives, up on these so-called corruption issues, just as you can whip up young people on the fake story of climate change.
Right.
But what's necessary is to go to this higher level of scientific principle of how we know what these operations represent. And that's where the LaRouche movement is unique, because Lyndon LaRouche identified 40 years ago that the environmentalist movement was an eco-fascist movement that was committed to depopulation and that was funded by leading financial networks, oligarchs, City of London networks. Prince Philip was involved in it. The Club of Rome, which is an oligarchical network, is part of it. This was all in print in our publications 40 and 50 years ago.
Right.
And people didn't pay attention to it.
Right.
They either said, well, it's not important, or Jane Fonda will never stop nuclear power. People made stupid decisions not to fight and came up with excuses. And so now we're at a point where this thing's very advanced. It still can't win. I mean, the average American, if you say to them, we've got to do something about the climate, they'll say, yeah. And then if you say, so what we're going to do is you're going to stop driving, stop eating steak, stop wearing clothes, and stop flying anywhere. And the average person will say, no way, I'm not going to do it. Even in Germany, a new movement has started, which essentially in the German translation to English is, I want to drive my car when I want, where I want.
Right.
And it signed up something like 400,000 people in the first 24 hours as a Facebook site.
Right.
So even in Germany, where people are submissive, you have a fight. We've got to make sure
they're submissive at one level, but psychologically, but once they actually realize the price of it, they start to bolt, don't they?
Well, look, the people who are running these operations include very sophisticated psychotherapists, people from the Tavistock Institute, people from CIA mind control programs, the Quantico, Virginia FBI Behavioral Science Division. These are people who study and looking for susceptibilities in national ideologies. And they are the same people who work with the Obama campaign, for example, use this to shape his messaging. So we've got to use the same methods, only the difference is we're using truth, not manipulation.
Right.
And if people understand there's a method by which you can actually figure out what's true, then you can win the fight. Because human beings, despite all the quirks we have, human beings are essentially good. There's a desire to do what's right. And only under conditions where people feel threatened or oppressed do they start making very bad decisions and get manipulated by the kind of psychological warfare and brainwashing operations that we see coming out of the British intelligence and U.S. intelligence. But that can still be countered. One of the things we're doing, I reported this last week, we're going on college campuses with signs that say the world needs more people. at one table, and then a table across the sidewalk from it, another table saying there are too many people. And we're calling people over who say, yeah, I agree with you, there are too many people. And we say, okay, good. Well, here's what we need from you. Which of the people in your family are the useless eaters that we should get rid of?
Right.
And people say, whoa, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you just said too many people, so where do we start?
Who do you take out first? Your daughter, your mother, your grandfather? Who's going to die first, right?
Exactly. Now, some people take it seriously and say, well, yeah, my grandfather's 80 years old, he's had a good life, let's take him out. But most people at a certain point get the joke, and then they say, well, okay, so what are you really saying? Then we send them over to our other table and explain to them how human beings and our universe is not a closed system. It actually is an ongoing creative dynamic process which is susceptible to human intervention, provided we are operating in the real universe as opposed to the world of ideology and geopolitics.
Right.
So we're recruiting college students away from the Green Movement, from Ocasio-Cortez, from Greta Thunberg, and from Mark Carney. You know, and we were talking in New York with young people, because we said that it's the bankers who are behind this fight, this so-called climate protection. And young people were arguing with us, and then we showed them how much money is going into their movement, coming from people like Michael Bloomberg, executives of Wall Street firms. And they're looking at it, is this true? And we said, well, go look it up. You can figure it out. And so you spread that kind of truth in these circles, and they stop being so damn brainwashed, and maybe you can pull not just them out of the excuse me, brainwashed environment into an actual commitment to fight for truth. And that's what the LaRouche movement is doing right now.
Yeah, and that's where, let's say a decade or two down the road, we would have a democratized China with Belt and Road working with multiple countries. We'd have Russia and China no longer sharing probably missile defense and defense averse against coronal mass ejection or near passage asteroids and meteors. We had a meteor that was a city crasher, just missed us a few weeks ago, and they didn't even notice from Space Command. It almost hit us. And people need to realize that we have things that are happening, including pole shifts and geomagnetic things, that we need to work on as multiple nations. And we don't, we're going to have major cataclysmic events that are not in our control.
Yeah, that's right. And this is what, in his own way, President Trump, last week he went to Houston to a very large rally of Indian Americans, 70,000 Indian Americans greeting Prime Minister Modi of India. And Modi and Trump at that meeting talked about the importance of cooperation in space. And of course, in Houston, which is where NASA is centered, it was a very receptive crowd. But then Modi started saying to them, look, Trump is making America great again, and I want you to support him. Now, the Indian American population in 2016 voted less than 40% for Trump. But this endorsement from Modi can turn that around, can change that dramatically. So there are things Trump is doing which represent these higher strategic concerns. Now, I'll tell you one thing that's very important. The Democrats are going along with some Republicans to try and gut the Artemis Moon-Mars program that the president has come up with.
Right.
And there's a fight going on right now in the Congress.
Now, tell us about the Moon-Mars program. What is that? Why do they want to gut it?
Because they're saying, for example, Bernie Sanders says he's all for space program, but we have to take care of things on the Earth first, as though there's some dichotomy between the potential for scientific advance in space and using those technologies to improve the life on Earth. Where
he's an
was
idiot.
In the 60s and 70s? Was he in a pot-induced fog and didn't see how NASA had a tremendous positive impact in lifting people out of poverty? Now you have a space program in many countries around the world where you have the opportunity to do that globally. And instead, he's joining with budget-cutting Republicans saying we can't afford the space program.
Really?
So So I think your listeners, another thing you can do is go on the LaRouche PAC website, look up this question of Project Artemis, which is the name that's been given to the program for the Moon and Mars mission. Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo.
Right.
And so this is the next step of the public space program. And we need people to call the Congress and say, cut the nonsense. We need this program, especially for things that you and I are talking about.
Right now it's 2019, let's say 2039, 20 years from now. What I want to see is the United States and China collaborating on high-speed rail across America. I want to see most of the power lines changed to plasma lines buried around the world so they're free of influence by a coronal mass ejection from the sun the last hours and knock out our power grid and destroy UHF transformers. I want us to do climate modification to protect climate so we don't have superstorms striking the Earth and can even out the water supply not only with normal hygronomic levels from space but also primary water, which the governments of the Earth need to start doing primary water exploration. We need to have technologies to block earthquakes, which I know how to do, using telluric frequencies to cause microquakes per day rather than megaquakes every century or 1,000 years. We need to collaborate with China and Russia to actually democratize them and move toward where their scientists can move back and forth, where we don't steal necessarily patents, but we actually co-educate ourselves. For example, it would be good to have Chinese engineers help us get our high-speed rail here. We want to make sure that we move forward into what's called a functional medicine future, which causes extension to human lifespan. Right now, human lifespan is shortening because the medical system is too corrupt. It's designed to toxic polypharmacy people. They don't look at their gene snips. For example, in Japan, back in the late 1980s, they did a special seminar in Ohio, and the Japanese said of that seminar, every Japanese citizen has a gene snip analysis of their gene polymorphism so they can detox drugs properly. So otherwise, your blood wouldn't go into orbit and make you toxic from a drug. Like I got a call a couple days ago by a gentleman who got a toxic reaction to Entresto. Migratory bulimic dermatitis, which is very nasty, and then eventually had angioedema of the scrotum that blew up like a balloon. I mean, people have to understand what's going on here. Is the medical system is hampered by people who are non-scientists. They're controlled by drug companies and big pharma. Big pharma is controlled by big banks. The big banks are controlled by the bubble economy, and the bubble economy is ready to pop. That's why this repo thing is wrote to blow. And they're even running out of money in the repo market. That's how crazy this is. And there are simple solutions. Trump knows them, but they better darn well do it soon because it could pop soon, couldn't it?
Well, that's the whole point, and that's my message tonight, and I hope people take it seriously.
And LaRouche has been saying it for decades. You guys are not ahead of this thing. You're like light years ahead of everybody else. Light years.
Well, I like to.
Amazing, isn't it? LaRouche goes to saying, you need to have Glass-Steagall. You need to have a worldwide Belt and Road, not just Chinese. You need to have collaboration in science for defense of Earth strategy. You need to move out into space to get new technology to make stabilize the ecosphere on Earth and the world economy, right? Amazing stuff. Thank you. Amazing show. You taught me a lot of new things. Always great to have you on. See you next week. Dr. Betty Martini, Dr. O'Lee, the last of the Aspartame Awareness Month.